that had been there.
Shabbat Shalom. Okay, I think that we are going to get started. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm so thrilled that we are able to be here on this beautiful Shabbat day, almost Shabbat evening. And before we start, I want us to take a moment to take a deep breath. I want us to think about what from this past week we hope to bring into Shabbat, or what from this past week we are hoping to leave behind. What was part of this past week that happened and we can acknowledge it, but we hope that it stays in last week and not in this upcoming. So we'll take one more breath, breathe in the good things we want to bring into Shabbat, and exhale all of the things we want to leave behind. And we will start with a McCoon. As we come to the lighting of the Shabbat candles, I would like to ask someone who is joining us via Zoom if they might be interested in sharing this reading with us.
I can read it.
Awesome. Thank you, Sonia.
As we enter this sacred time of Shabbat, may Adonai help us put aside our stresses of daily life and absorb the calm of this holy moment. As Shabbat begins, may Adonai revive our ability to feel the infinite potential this ceasing affords us to regather our scattered selves. In the hallowed space Shabbat creates, may Adonai refresh our connections to our loved ones and community, expanding the threads which bind us together.
Thank you. For those who are joining us on Zoom, if you would like to light Shabbat candles along with us, please feel free to do so. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We turn to page 131 for the words Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Shir Chadash. We are on page 138 for the words of Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala B'nei Shabbat Nekavela. Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala B'nei Shabbat Nekavela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Hishmianu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'litehila. דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקווה לה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקווה לה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקווה לה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקווה לה. Please rise in all the ways you're able. בואי ושלום עטרת בלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקווה לה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקווה לה. Please be seated. Teach me a blessing, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise. As each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. We turn to page 146 for the words of Baruch Hu. Please rise in all the ways you are able. night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mivnei choshech, golel or mivnei choshech, v'choshech mivnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mivnei choshech, golel or mivnei choshech, v'choshech mivnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. You turn to page 150 for the words of Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam levanecha v'divarta bam v'shiftecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha Uvisharecha Lema'an tizkeru Va'asitem et kol mitzvotai V'hitem kedoshim le'Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim Lihiot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem Emet. It's my pleasure to invite up Janice Fontano to share a reading with us as we get in the spirit of Mi Chamocha.
The good is in us will win. Over all the wickedness, over all the wrongs we have done, we will look back at the pages of written history and be amazed, and then we will laugh and sing, and the good that is in us, children in their cradles, will have won. Our hearts beat with certainty, and there is a day and an hour in a mountain called Zion, and all of the sufferings will gather there and become song, ringing out into every corner of the earth, from end to end, and the nations will hear it. And like the caravans in the desert, with all to that morning throng.
Amen. Thank you. We are on page 158 with the words of Mi Chamocha. Yai lai lai, yai la la la, yai la la, yai lai lai, ya lai la lai, ya la la la, ya la lai, ya la lai lai, ya la 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 lai. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilo dosei fele, nora tehilo dosei fele. Malechutecha ra'u v'necha bokei lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Se'elianu ve'amru, Se'elianu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Yai lai lai, yai la lai lai, ya la lai, yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai, ya lai la lai, yai la la la, ya la lai, yai la lai lai, ya la 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 lai. Yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai. Before we continue with Hashkivenu, I want us to think a little bit about mental rest. I don't know about others of you, but I can say for myself that my mind is often guilty of marathons. It is running, running, running all the day long, and sometimes it's thinking about happy things, but sometimes it's thinking about Yom HaShoah and about how much there is to do in this world and how much healing still needs to happen, and even that has to-do lists, and even that has things that we're supposed to do, and there's not enough time in the day, and so our mind thinks if I just keep running, then all of a sudden I'll be able to fix it's not a problem, I'll just fix it, I'll just keep on running and running and running. And we know that that's not actually how things get done. Our minds, when they are running, they are actually often getting in the way of actual important work and that which comes from rest, including when we rest together. So, this Shabbat, let's pause a moment to think about letting our brains take a little break, letting them be silent for a moment. And let's turn to page 160 for the words of Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom V'hamidenu just as we must rest and rest together, we learn from Ahad Ha'am that more than the Jewish people has kept Shabbat, a time of rest, has kept the Jewish people. We turn to page 162 for the words of Vishamru. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam. Beini uvein bnei Yisrael, oti leolam, oti leolam. Vishamru bnei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim Asa Adonai, et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz, vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, lidorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. Vishamru bnei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam. Vishamru Israel et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam. If that doesn't get you in the Shabbat spirit, I just don't know what will. We continue with the tefillah, the core part of our service, on page 164. Please rise in all the ways you are able. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el hagadol hagibor v'hanora, El Elyon, gomel chasadim tovim, v'konei hakol, v'zocher chastei avot v'imahot, u'mevik ula livnei v'neihem, lema'an shemo be'ahava, melech ozer u'moshia u'magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechayeh hakol atah rav lehoshia. Morid hatal, mechalkel chayim bechesed, mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim verofeh cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, melech Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata l'hachayot hakol. Baruch ata Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalalucha selah. Baruch ata Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Please take a moment for your own silent prayer, and when you are ready, please be seated. We're on page 178. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon Lecho hashalom. Ki ata hu melech Adon Lecho hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. On the next page. We hope that our prayers for peace and whatever else we need to pray for this Shabbat will be received be acceptable. Yehiyu leratson imrefi vehegyon libi lefanecha Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri Vegoali Yehiyu leratzon imreifi vehegyon libi lefanecha Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri Vegoali Come on. There we go. You gotta love those moments when you're so lost in prayer that you forget the next word. So this week, we read in the Torah one of the many times that we must love our neighbor as ourselves. So I wanted to share, amidst all of the heaviness of this week, I wanted us to share a lighthearted story of an unlikely neighbor that we should love as much as ourselves. The story is called My Friend, the Sea Monster. The ship's passengers had all but given up hope. They were stranded in a calm sea. They waited for the wind to pick up, but for the past 2 days, the ship just rocked back and forth, going nowhere. Feels a little bit like seasickness. 2 days, my goodness. So, Captain, a fine job you've done, a passenger grumbled under his breath. What's that? The captain snapped. If you have anything to say, stand up and say it loud for everyone to hear. All right then, the man said, with his voice rising. I'll say it loud and clear. This is all. Any guesses? Your fault. This is all your fault. And a woman stood up and waggled her finger at the both of them. Now, just 1 minute, she said. It's not his fault that we got stuck. At least he's given his share of food to others the past 2 days, not like you eating everything in sight. Leave my boy alone, said an old man. He's still growing. If he's eating, it's because he needs to eat. He needs the nutrition. He's growing. And I suppose you need all that luggage too, a voice from the crowd called out. It's weighing us down. We should just throw it overboard. A really pleasant conversation. The passengers were so busy arguing that they didn't notice that something much worse was still to come. Slithering toward the ship was the hugest, slimiest, ugliest, scariest sea creature in the entire world. And she was hungry. Another bunch of stranded humans, thought the sea monster as she swam right up to the side of the ship. How lucky for me. And she licked her scaly lips and kept her eyes fixed on an apple barrel near the deck's railing. When I help free them, they'll be so grateful to me that they'll give me lots of those delicious red things. Plot twist. Just then, a heavy wooden trunk came out of nowhere and struck the sea monster right between the eyes. Ow! She cried, and the passengers, hearing that tremendous groan, I guess it was a little deeper, ow! They rushed to find out whom or what they had hit. When they saw the sea monster rubbing her forehead with 4 of her tentacles, they panicked, screaming and running from one end of the ship to the other. Ah! She's going to eat us! Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Well, what a way to treat me, said the sea monster, sighing, shaking her head. That's absolutely the last time I try to help humans. She lifted herself high up out of the water to get a good look at these unreasonable beings. And the people on the board screamed even louder and ran from one side of the deck to the other, back and forth. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? It's going to eat us. Now look what you've done, one shrieked. You've made it angry by hitting it. What I've done, cried another. You're the one who pushed me. Oh, you're both to blame, yelled a third. Oh God, help us. What a strange bunch of people these are, the sea monster muttered as she flopped back into the sea. They treat each other as badly as they treat me. They ask God to save them, but when God sends help, they're not even recognizing it. They're too busy beating each other up and yelling at each other and being afraid of me before being curious. And so the sea monster turned to swim away, but she had the distinct feeling that she was still being watched. She looked over her shoulder and she saw a girl hanging on to the deck's rail. And the girl was not yelling or screaming or throwing luggage. It was the captain's daughter, who had snuck away from the arguing to get a peek of the monster. They eyed each other for a moment, and then the girl blurted out, "You can talk?" Silly girl, of course I can talk. The sea monster rolled her big black eyes. And as I was saying, I would be happy to help get your ship moving again, but I just can't stand all of the screaming and all of those sharp words, so I'm leaving. Wait, the girl said. They're not as bad as they seem. I'm so sorry that trunk hit you. And she reached up and grabbed an apple from the barrel next to her and offered it to the creature. It's the least I can do, the girl said. Well, all right, the sea monster said slowly. It's very sweet of you. She leaned forward and opened her mouth to take a bite when all of a sudden, look! The monster's going to eat the captain's daughter! The screaming started all over again, just as it had started to die down a little bit. And someone yanked the girl from the railing. Stop, 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 the captain's daughter yelled as loud as she could. The sea monster isn't going to eat me. She is going to help me." There were a few chuckles from the passengers. "How do you know, little girl? Is that what the monster told you?" "Yeah," she answered, struggling to be released. When she looked out to the water again, the sea monster was already slithering away. "Now look," the girl cried. "You've all driven her away with your fighting." She looked at the apple still in her hand. "But maybe we can get her to come back." The girl threw the apple with all of her might. Ugh! I'm not a good softball player. I can't throw. I'm sure she threw much farther. And the girl threw the apple with all of her might, and it landed in the water right in front of the sea monster, who suddenly stopped slithering. The girl hurled more and more apples as far as she could, and finally the sea monster turned to face her. She hesitated. Then, cautiously, the creature began swimming back toward the ship, gobbling the apples as she went. She could have eaten our whole ship if she wanted to, but she didn't. The captain's daughter called to the passengers behind her. She just wanted apples. "Quick, grab some more and help me." The crowd hesitated until the captain stepped forward. He skipped an apple across the waves like a pebble across the pond and watched the creature nervously lick her lips. A passenger leaned toward the railing and sighed, "Poor thing. She's hungry and we frightened her." The sea monster kept her eye on the tempting apple, but stayed where she was. Someone called out, "Go on, it's all right. Go on and eat it." And soon passengers were tossing armloads of apples to the sea, and many more shouted words of encouragement. "You can do it! They're for you! We put them right there for you!" And finally, they started saying to themselves, "Maybe the girl is right." And the creature also began to relax. And she also said, "Maybe the girl is right. Maybe they're not so bad after all." Then when the creature had devoured every last apple in the barrel, she dabbed the corners of her mouth and smoothed her ruffled scales. "Now that was very tasty. Thank you all very much," she told the passengers who were waiting silently to see what would happen next. She cleared her throat and bent down behind the ship, and with the top of her head, the sea monster gently started nudging the ship forward, and soon it was heading into a steady breeze. "My daughter was right," the captain cried. "The sea monster is helping us. Hoist the sails." And without any hesitation, everyone got to work. The young men raised the sails, and the old women made sure that the children were safe, and the passengers forgave each other for all of the fighting. The captain's daughter wanted to thank the sea monster, but the ship had already sailed too far away, and the creature was out of sight. "I wonder what else sea monsters eat," she thought to herself. "I guess I'll just have to ask the next one I meet." Whether we know who our neighbors are and feel the urge to fight with them if we're annoyed with something that they're doing, or whether our neighbor is someone that we don't know, we must. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You should love your neighbor as yourself. And may that be the Torah we bring into this upcoming week. Kenya here at Zone, may this be God's will. With this Torah on our mind and our hearts, we think of those who are in need of healing. Healing of body, healing of spirit, healing of soul. If you are thinking of someone who is in need of healing and you would like to share their name aloud or in your heart, or if you would like to type their name in the chat, please do so at this moment. If you are in the room, please feel free to share their name as my hand passes over your section. We'll pause a moment as people finish typing. The words of Misha Beirach can be found on page 371. Misha Beirach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Beirach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We continue with the words of Aleinu on page 586. Please rise in all the ways that you are able. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kamishpechot adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, vegoralenu kechol hamonam. Va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu. Bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, u'shemo, u'shemo echad. Please be seated. we take this time to think of those who were in our lives and who remain in our lives through their memories and through their place in our hearts. This Shabbat, we are remembering the following people. As your loved one's name is read, please rise in the ways you're able. Philip Brodzinski, father of Rick Brodzinski and Hannah Brodzinski. Chaya Geller, remembered by Larissa Krasnovskaya. Virginia Goldsworthy, mother of Bessie Rosenberg. Abe Masafi, father of Marlene Minash. Boris Putterman, remembered by Rosalie Rosenbaum. Erich Silberberg, father of John Silberberg. And Marie Snyder, sister of Raymond Giacomo. We now invite all who are observing their first year of mourning to rise at this time. And we now rise as a community with our mourners to say the words of Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yitz Gadal v'yitz Kadash Shemei Rabba Ba'alma divrach Yirute v'yamlich malchute B'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal Shmei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be for a blessing, to which we say, Amen. Please be seated. Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. It is now time for some announcements. And Susan Schwartz will be sharing our announcements with us. What a joy and pleasure to have her share announcements with us in person.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Join us this Sunday, May 1st at 7 p.m. for our annual Interfaith Yom HaShoah Remembrance Service. The guest speaker will be Lisa Tabak, a second-generation survivor whose mother, Edith Weiler, had a temporary plan to hide from the Nazis in a farm loft that turned into a 4-year stay. This is a multi-access event, in person at TBT and on Zoom. This Sunday from 11:30 to 1:30 p.m. is also the final opportunity to support the Social Action Project and drop off donations for refugee families still arriving from Afghanistan. Only specific items are being accepted. Please see the Social Action webpage for details. If you would like to donate but can't make this time, please contact Janice Fontino. Our What You Didn't Learn in Religious School series concludes on Tuesday, May 3rd at 6:30 p.m. with As Ata Reformi. Join us as we learn about the challenges and the beauty that Reform and progressive Jewish communities in Israel experience. This program is Zoom only and open to all ages 12 and up. End-of-life planning is something we will each have to do, whether for ourselves or our loved ones. How do we make these plans in a way that reflects our values and the legacy we want to leave behind? Join us for Death and Taxes, Planning for the Inevitable, a multi-access expert panel and bagel brunch event on Sunday, May 15th at 10 a.m. We will explore the different spiritual and practical lenses through which we can look at end-of-life planning. Have you participated yet? In celebration of our 60th anniversary, Temple Beth Torah is creating a collaborative community poem, Memories and Dreams. We want to hear your memories of where we've been and dreams of where we'll go. The project was launched at our Community Fun Day, and now it's available online too. Materials will also be available at in-person events, so you can contribute while you're here. No prior writing experience necessary. Just respond with one line or for either or both of the two prompts given. Submission deadline is June 12th. The finished product will be shared at the Rockin' Shabbat on Friday, June 24th. Three Below Theater in San Jose will be showing the animated film Charlotte that tells the true story of a young German Jewish girl who moves to the south of France shortly before World War II so that she can paint without worrying about what was happening in Germany. But circumstances arise that disrupt her plans. The film will be shown this weekend and next. Three Below is the only local theater screening this film. Other locations are in San Francisco and Berkeley. Thank you to Janice Fontino, Susan Amaro, and Karen Bressler for representing the worship committee, Tony Monroe for being on AV, and Cindy Monroe for sharing slides. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And thank you to Susan for schlepping all the way. She came just to give announcements this Shabbat. And it is now special time for us to look at our Greening Actions Countinator. Woohoo! We have made it. You can almost kind of tell we made it from 74 to 76 actions. So we have 2 new actions in there. Sometimes we have a slow week, and that's okay, but hopefully this is an inspiration to you that we are going to get to 120 before June 24th. We need your help. I know that I just signed myself up for a couple extra just to make sure that I'm doing my part for us to get there. And if you have questions about this, also ask Janice Fontano. She will be able to help you there. And from there, we go from good thing to good thing, from strength to strength. We move from our gratitude for the ability to help make a difference in this earth to gratitude for loved ones in our lives. So we will now take a moment to bless our family, However you define family, this blessing is for them. If you are not in the same room with somebody who you'd like to send this blessing to, I encourage you to close your eyes for a moment and hold them in your heart. And we say, may God bless you and keep you. May God shine God's face upon you and be gracious to you. May God's face turn to you and grant you peace, to which we all say, Amen. And now for some kiddush and motzi. If you are at home and want to take this moment to grab a sweet drink, I encourage you to do so. You have approximately 1.5 seconds. And for the rest of us, we are on page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu. Zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim. V'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. L'chaim. And now for the motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. We love a good challah. So we will conclude with some simple words. Bim, bam, Shabbat Shalom. Bim, bam, bim, 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 bam, bim, 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 bam. Bim, bam, bim, 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 bam, bim, 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 bam. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, all.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Wait, hold on, let me find my mask. Oh, there it went. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm so thrilled to see you. How are you doing?
We're doing fine.
Good.
A sea monster that likes apples.
Oh,
Never a guess.
Right. Well, you know, that's why you gotta be curious.
Exactly.
Awesome. Shabbat Shalom.
Great story.
Okay, that's it.
ends up getting rolled up in the title of Rabbi.
Sue and Sheldon. Hi, Sue and Sheldon.
Bless you. Oh, yeah, it was so wonderful that, I got to see y'all there.